half price from $19.99, but you have to do that calculation and let me know what I cost.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you get yourself anything nice? Did the girls get you anything nice? Did they pick up a bargain for you, Nacy?
No, I keep hinting at them that I need new striker mallets for my hammer dulcimer. And it's been...
I'm fresh out of them, dude, or I'd send you some over. I'm fresh out. Ran out this morning.
Yeah, they've been missing for about 6 months now, and they missed the birthday occasion, and so now I'm pushing it for Christmas. Come on, I need my hammer dulcimer time.
And how did the Thanksgiving go, man? What happened there? Did you have a nice turkey feast, Nacy?
Well, I had a cheaper than usual turkey day. There was a confusion about the daughters, and so they were with their mother. So I just kind of chilled out. And then a friend of mine came by with a local store, had a turkey dinner, and he brought it over for me. And I said, okay, I'll partake. I'm usually not I'm not a diner outer or to-go guy.
I must admit, I do like to experience the finer kind of corners of cuisine when you eat out, when you dine out at the restaurant, yes. Like to rub shoulders with the people, the ones to do now and again, you know, when it's available, when you got the cash to do it. It's getting really expensive just to go out for a meal now, though. Wasn't that bad back in the day, right?
Yeah, that's the ridiculousness of it, that the prices have all remained the same. The quality of dining you get is not the same at all. And plus, you know, me and my hippiocrite status, you know, styrofoam boxes and the takeout containers, they always get me all cringy. Ooh, dang it. There was a buzzword, cringy. Gets me all thinking I'm a naughty boy. Plus, I don't think the restaurants use the finer cuts of meat or the finer herbs and spices as I do in my kitchen.
So you better than a couple of Michelin stars. Is the Chez Nacy, is that the place to go for your dining needs? I'm on my way, dude. I'm on my way.
Well, unfortunately, because of my situation of being blind and in the wheelchair, that I tell any of my friends, if you're up for any kind of fixings, you know, you just send me an ingredients list and I'll get them all in organic. And then I usually invite somebody comes over and they'll make dinner for us. And sit around with a little bit of the PPP, and then we enjoy some food, and sometimes it goes to greater and further depths and lengths with the conversation, and going beyond the limits of natural existence.
So back in the day, dude, the Anishinaabe, what would a warrior have for his breakfast? What would the diet be? What would that look like? The food look like back in the day before our modern world took over?
Well, from what I was informed is that more times than not, there were like a cooking area where there was always food, you know, kind of not quite like a banquet, but, you know, where you can just go and eat, because the thing wasn't about, you know, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It was about eating when you're hungry. You know, so...
That's how I tend to live, dude. I must admit, sorry to jump in, but that's how I tend to go.
Yeah, well...
Like, people say to me, oh, it's time for lunch, and I'm thinking, well, I'm not hungry, so I tend to eat when I'm hungry. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm going on the go 45 years now. Don't get me wrong, I hardly look like the picture of health. But I've always felt that, you know, when it's time to eat, the body's going to tell you, right?
Right. And it's unfortunate because, you know, in America, they talk about our overweight challenge. You know, I think now it's gone global.
Oh, I don't
unhealthy
know, dude. I
diets.
don't know, dude. I take a look at some of those, some of the TV shows, some of the pictures you see. You know, some big boys over there in America and some big girls. Yes, indeed.
Oh,
That's no criticism, but it is big. He's do everything bigger, man.
right. Well, I'm okay. Be who you wish to be.
Be all you can
I
be, and I mean all you can be.
and I wish mostly for people to be healthy. That's the biggest thing, because it does. In the end, it does matter. If you are what you eat, then I'm definitely full of excrement.
Oh, I'm going to turn into a
Metaphorically.
chicken soon. I eat far too much chicken. But listen, before we go any further, dude, I almost forgot. Big shout out to everyone listening over in the Wookiee Cave at tfrlive.com/chat. Yes, you can make your way over there right now if you need some dopamine, because I will be giving the roll call very, very soon indeed. A good turnout in the chat room today, and some very, very stellar participants over there. So I urge you all to make your way over to the Wookiee Cave. And as today's show progresses, I've written it down on a bit of paper. This is how I try and remind myself of things. I'm very forgetful. But 2 weeks ago, we done something completely new on Freaky Friday. And you know what? It worked. It was great. In fact, I would say it raised the bar, because instead of just getting woo from me, Kev, Nacy, and Scotty, who's spending some quality time with his family today, much love sent out to Scotty, we need the woo from all of you. So we'll be opening up the phone lines again like we done a fortnight ago in the third hour of the show. We might do it a little bit sooner. I don't know, but yes, Nacy, you enjoy opening up the phones. You get to speak to your people, right?
Oh, I absolutely enjoy it when somebody else gets to add to the conversation, especially when you can add to the woo. That's even more enjoyable, because I speculate if you found yourself here with Freaky Friday, then you've had some freaky experiences.
I would imagine if you haven't had any first-hand freaky experiences, I would hazard a guess that you know some local woo, some local lore that you can bring to the table, and you can leave me, Nacy, and the rest of the audience gobsmacked. Yes, indeedy. So listen, let's head on over.
I got a good...
I'm going to head into the Wookiee Cave right now. Will we do the Wookiee Cave, Nacy, and I'll come right back to you, right? How's that sound?
Okay.
Sounds better than our Wookiee sounds. That's all I'm going to say. So, obviously, tfrlive.com/chat. On a Friday, myself and Nacy, we dub it the Wookiee Cave. And over there in the Wookiee Cave, you always get me and Sophia, my very attractive looking robot friend. And first up today, I've got my drum roll ready. It's only Chris Geo in the chat room, ladies and gentlemen. The Chris Geo, the man or one half of the team behind Truth Frequency Radio. A big shout out to Chris. And we've got one of our other hosts over there as well. We've got Lucky. We then have Bam. Zerolath. That's an interesting name. We've got a paradoxical anomaly. Psycho Dave 321. He's still kicking about over there. Good to see you, Psycho. Dawn, great to see you. Carol, great to see you. And a very talkative human. I imagine when we open up the phone lines, the talkative human might well be wanting to call into the show. And they say, we're going to have to I've got fingers crossed, I've got toes crossed, because we are under the hammer right now over here in Scotland and Northern England. In fact, most of the UK, we're getting battered by what they call Storm Arwen. Yes, it's our first named storm of the year. I was looking earlier on, there's been a gust of wind that registered 78 miles per hour. 78 miles per hour. Yes, indeed. When I look at some of the other extreme weather events that you get around the world, 78 miles per hour, I don't know, it's not that impressive, but I can tell you right now, it sounds impressive. I wouldn't be surprised from time to time during the show if we don't have a power cut, you're going to hear things probably in the background smashing around. We've got wheelie bins out the back that looked like they were going for a little race around the back garden earlier on. We've got power outages throughout Scotland. So yes, a big shout to my mum as well, if she still has power. She loves nothing better than a good storm, they say. Nothing better, nothing pleases old Pearly better than sitting there listening to the howling wind and the lashing rain. And we've got that by the bucket today, dude. So we're all warned. We may get cut off. You don't know.
Well, for Scottish interpretation, if I am correct, please inform me if I'm not. A wheelie bin is what we in America call a garbage can. Is that correct?
Yeah, pretty much translates, yeah.
and hooligans mess around with the wheelie bins. They're also
Indeed.
called dustbins.
Indeed. So, dude,
But you
I
know
had
that
on
wind.
What were you saying?
I was going to go on about, isn't it a little weird without Scotty?
I hate it when Scotty's not here.
Because
It's not that I don't like the two of us doing it. We're good. But it's just missing something. And it's something that only Scotty Lopez brings to the table. I don't know what it is. He's like the super secret sauce, right, Nacy? He's like the glue that holds us together, man. The big man. And I was
just to
disappointed.
share how I roll, since I'm like the third member of the party here, usually what I do is, I let you, the captain, speak, and then I wait for the pause, and then usually it's Scotty who speaks after you, and then I usually throw in my, 0.07894 cents worth, we just kind of roll like that. And so now when it's just me and you, the minute I hear your pause, I'm like ready to jump in on it without pausing long enough to be like, oh, he's going to go on a little bit more. So yeah.
I just dropped you in it, dude. I dropped you in it. So I'm going to play a quick super chat here. DJ Bison. Let's see if it plays. Will it play? Maybe it won't. Maybe I'll just need to read it out. It's just, oh, hang on. Now I've lost it.
DJ Bison donated £2 through Super Chat. Google strange lights over M6 motorway. Big love X.
Yeah, it's not something that really, DJ, thank you very much for the super chat, but yeah, it's not something that really registered with me. I seen this doing the rounds the other day. Maybe there's a video that goes with it. I don't know. But for you, Nacy, what we see is a car on a motorway, and we see strange lights in the sky, and what looks like, in my own honest opinion, a reflection coming from within the car on the actual windscreen, because that looks like a dashboard control that you can see at the top of that image there. Listen, yeah, says Kelly Thompson was driving to Wales when she saw something spooky. Maybe there's a video that goes with it that's going to impress me some more, DJ Bison, but I'll read out the story. I'd seen it during the week. It reminded me a lot of when Secure Team 10 were trying to make out that there was a UFO flying alongside a car, but in reality, it was just like a phone that was sitting down by the gearbox that was reflecting off the windscreen. Like I say, I never looked into it deeply. It says a couple were left baffled by mystery lights they saw in the sky while driving to their caravan. Kelly Thompson, 29, and her partner, Stuart Marshall, 35, were driving on the M6. And I'll tell you, that's a very, very busy piece of road. Between Liverpool and Manchester on November the 18th at around 7:15 p.m. in the evening, when they saw mysterious lights in the sky above them. The couple, who are from Birmingham, were travelling on the motorway to get to their caravan in Rill for the weekend. Kelly said, "We were just driving and saw these weird lights in the sky. I couldn't really explain it. At first, I thought it was something projecting into the sky from the floor. I kept looking everywhere and I couldn't see anything. When when then drove directly, it's a typo, it's the way it's wrote. We then drove directly under them and I took pictures because I couldn't explain them. I was baffled. I was in my car with my partner and he could see it too and was wondering what it was. After seeing the lights and not knowing what they were, Kelly took to the internet to see if she could find out what she saw. And she told the Echo I started using Google, or trying to use Google, and what I'd seen. But it's hard to put that into words, you know. I Googled UFO sighting, but that wasn't helpful at all. I would try reflection on the windscreen. Maybe I'm just being too cynical. I was also spoke to my friends about it, and the first thing they said, oh, it's a UFO. I'm on the fence about that kind of thing. Live world map satellite position show one SpaceX Starlink satellite heading over North Wales towards Stoke-on-Trent at the time. Doesn't look like a Starlink satellite. I don't know. It's I'll put the picture over into the TFR chat room. I don't know. I'm it's not wooing me over, Nacy. It's not doing it for me, man. It's just not doing it. And I would want to know why every other driver, or at least 1 out of every 10 drivers, wasn't reporting that they were seeing these strange lights. One person? I don't know. Do I want to believe? Yes. Do I think this is it the arrival, Nacy? Is it the arrival? Are the motherships coming? I don't know. I don't think so.
My ex-partner, one time when we were driving from Minneapolis back up to Moorhead on Highway 94, she kept talking about, this is when I was starting to lose my sight, and she was like talking about something just hanging in the horizon, and it just wasn't moving, and she described it as a comma. And she kept going on and on about it for about 10, 15 minutes. And then I said, well, pull over to the side and take a picture of it, because she has a really nice camera. I know, because I bought it for her. And so she pulled over and took a picture of it. And I was able to see it through the picture because it was blown up and I could hold it up closer to my face. And to me, it looked like one of the classic disc saucers on its side. And as it was going through the air, kind of like the wind draft going around it, made it kind of look kind of like a comma, but not like a comma where it has like.
Can you imagine that, dude? Can you imagine it? We get invaded by an alien race of punctuation marks.
Full stop.
Imagine it, man. Semicolons and everything flying at us.
Right. But yeah, and I wonder if I would be able to find that. But I've seen, I've shared a couple of my experiences where I don't know what it was. From being in the Navy to driving up into Canada, to being out in the woods in the middle of the night. And now when I talk to people and they talk about all the satellites that are up there right now, what a brilliant excuse, for, troop movement. That's what I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for when somebody starts describing me like thousands of UFOs in like a big tactical formation crossing the sky.
Is it coming soon, Nacy? Is it coming anytime soon?
You keep telling me I'm not allowed to use dates.
You can still say that it's coming soon or not. I don't want you to like give us the hour and the minute. Well, we don't need to get that specific. Oh, did we lose Nacy?
William Cooper. Am I here?
You are here?
Yeah. Mine is warbling on my end here. It might be because I have youngsters in the house, and they might be overloading the internet.
Storm
so I'm gonna have
Arwen.
to-
It's Storm Arwen is having its effect, dude. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do. It's the
But-
aliens that girl was taking a photograph of. They're absolutely incandescent with rage. I've kind of, I'm very skeptical about it. And in fact, if you go back, you can actually even see a reflection of a telephone in one of the pictures. That is blatantly the
So-
corner of a telephone, either lying on a big dashboard or on. I'm not buying it. I'm definitely not buying it, dude. No.
Well, the I want to believe factor is a challenge when it comes to that desire to just want the answers. I think in the whole logicalness of the number game, with all of the stars up there being suns and planets and all of that, to me it just seems logical that there's life out there. The quest that we have, the search for intelligent life beyond Earth, is understandable because they can't find intelligent life here on the planet.
Agreed.
So, but then it goes back to why would, extraterrestrials come to this planet and visit us? I think part of it would, to try to speculate on that, explorers, just like we are explorers. Also, the one that I really like is that if we were a scientific experiment by extraterrestrials and their technology, because like on the planet here, where we'll have more or less a science fair where all these scientists try to outdo each other, wouldn't it not be the same, as above, so below? So to think that all of these entities said, hey, this is your situation. We're going to call it Earth for this time around. Maybe it was called Atlantis at some other time, or Lemire at some other time, or Mudflood Joe. But yeah, so they said, this is the situation. This is the parameters of the experiment. What kind of entity can you create to exist in this status, this biosphere? And then they put bets on it. And the species that reigns supreme, after reigning supreme for such a long period of time, then they got to wipe the slate clean.
Well, I hope they come looking like the ones out of V. I was watching the more recent iteration, the version of V that was out a few years ago, just earlier today. And boy, are they very attractive looking aliens. Ooh, dangerous ones, they say. I'll definitely be going on to that mothership. I won't even consider the perils that may lie ahead. I'd be easily conned, man. Easily conned.
But what if the skin suit shifted? One of my favorite scenes is in Men in Black, when the bug takes on that guy's body as a suit, and the suit gets kind of all shifted, and he has to straighten his skin out. Got a kick out of that.
Yeah, I must admit there was one scene in that version of V, the more modern version of V I was watching today, where they birth a queen reptilian. Oh boy. Now, if it comes in full reptilian form, not even Toxic Kev is going on a jaunt in that spaceship. That ain't for me. We'll be back after the break. Yes, me and Nacy will get back into extraterrestrial liaisons and a whole lot more. Don't go anywhere. There we go. Now we will be back in just a moment, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go anywhere. I need to refill the coffee. I need to batten down the hatches. I need to make sure we've not been blown away anywhere. I'm still not buying it. I'm still not buying that UFO in the car. I'm not. You can have your say on Freaky Friday, folks. It's all right, good and well what I think of things, but what do you think? I have asked, was that a UFO or not? The poll is live in the chat room. We'll get to that at the next break. We'll be back in a moment. Don't go anywhere. Oh, and on that note, we are back. And we are live. Yes, just me and the Naysay. Today, we are missing the third amigo. But we hope, myself and Naysay, absolutely hope and pray that we make it just as enjoyable a Freaky Friday as we all seem to have when Scotty Lopez is here. A big shout to Scotty. Hopefully he'll be back with us next week. And of course, coming up right after Freaky Friday on your number one network, Truth Frequency Radio, the woo does not stop here. In fact, no, it gets amplified because you can go through the paranormal portal right after Freaky Friday finishes, and Brent Thomas and Don Longbeard, they have got you covered. You think anything, any topic you can think of related to the paranormal, high strangeness, cryptids, those guys don't just have it, they take it to another level. I'm really, it's really awesome, isn't it, Nacy? That not only are we the warm-up act for the paranormal portal, but just to be on the same network as people like Brent and Don and all the other hosts here as well. It's a very special feeling indeed.
Well, that was definitely one of the places where I frequently lurked and visited many times. I think there's even one of his podcasts is involving me, and we've had shows where we've gone down different rabbit holes of the paranormal. My favorite one is Vlad the Impaler, Dracula, because at one point I wanted to be a vampire.
Everyone likes the old vampires, dude, especially over here in Europe.
Yeah, Bela Lugosi, he was just cool, wasn't he?
I just think there's
the
something
way he held himself
to that whole story, dude. The vampires, yes, indeedy. There's some good woo in there. And I remember growing up, they were some of my, I'd say it, favourite kind of horror type films. The old Dracula ones, the vampire ones. Of course, we've had a kind of modern take on that. There was the show True Blood. That was another one, kind of modernised the whole vampire thing. Do you think there's anything to it, Nacy? I think it's based in something that was real once upon a time.
Well, I believe it's over 85% of the entities on the planet are parasitic in nature. And if we think of certain critters that drink blood, we have wood ticks and we have mosquitoes. And especially when you think of mosquitoes, when do mosquitoes come out? But right around dusk, right as it starts getting nighttime. So it's that whole mythos of, get in before it's dark because the bloodsuckers are coming out. But then when you think of the allegories of energy vampires, I absolutely believe in that because I have met them. I've met them and I believe that I've become so in tune to my energy that there's times where individuals will touch me and right away I can feel that they're trying to suck my energy. This has happened many times. And interesting enough, when these occur, I have my rituals, ceremonies where I more or less shield myself, protection, where I'll say more, I guess you could say a prayer, or I'll voice my intentions within my entity and shield myself up. And there's been a couple times where these individuals have put their hand on me and I instantly ward up to say, for lack of a better term, and these people will immediately take their hands off me. Like, momentarily, like when somebody's touching something and all of a sudden, like, they get shocked. Is it actually me? Maybe, but I noticed the occurrence happened, and there's been other times where I've been in a conversation with somebody and it just seems draining. And then when you start looking more and more into the mind control, behavior modification modalities and the paranormal metaphysical stuff, then you learn about how people can more or less learn techniques, hypnotism. I think hypnotism goes on that borderline of energy vampirism, because you put people into a state of consciousness where they're susceptible. So to the full potential of the sucking of blood, yeah, unfortunately I do believe, it goes back to that Anishinaabe, and we talk about the Wendigo, where it has that extracurricular carnivorous activity and also the drinking of the life force. So,
yeah, I can't say off the top of my head I've ever felt like I've been in the presence of anyone, like literally trying to draw energy from me. Just trying to think, nah. Now, have I been in a room when somebody comes in and the energy gets sucked out of it because they're just a wrongin' and they've got a dark soul? Yes, I've been there for that. Do I think these energy vampires exist? Absolutely. Absolutely. I just don't think I've been in the presence of one. At least not one that I've been able to pick up on, they say. And we're all different. We could be surrounded by these types of people, entities, and maybe some of us would be totally oblivious to it. We don't even notice it, right?
Well, that's where they talk about when they talk about the devil, and it's the devil's greatest trick is to have people convinced he doesn't exist or it doesn't exist. You think that same realm works where, if someone is an energy vampire, you want to do it covertly so you're not detected. It'd be much more successful if you, just take a little sip instead of a big old guzzle or a drink.
Don't be greedy with it. Is that what you're saying? Don't be greedy, just in moderation when it comes to sucking the energy out of people. The Psycho Dave, he's a big fan of The Strain. Gave that TV.
Great book.
Yeah, definitely a good one. What kind of what comes to your mind when we're talking vampires, these types of entities? What TV shows, movies comes to your mind, dude?
Well, right away to the glory. I think that's what they called him on the strain. I remember as a kid, Salem's Lot, I think was the very first vampire book I ever read by Stephen King. And that was a really good one. But of course, I was raised as one of those weird kids that loved Halloween and loved the mask and scaring and special effects, so I was a weird kid, kind of like the Pugsley of the Addams Family. And I read the Anne Rice, but then when you start looking at the folklore from around the world, you find this vampire like entity of the likey of the drinky. I myself have no desire of taking the life force blood from somebody, but if you think of that, it's the life force is what we need to survive. So an energy in it, I'd have to say yes, but what do you get from it? I don't know.
Night hags. That's what you get. You get the night hag. That's where we're going to start. We've got a story about a night hag. I was trying to find a way to segue into it. It wasn't happening, they say. It wasn't happening. But this is a very unattractive looking female I'm looking at here. Not even on a dark night would Kev buy her a drink. And that's saying something. But it says, beware of the night hag. The sinister and the supernatural. I reckon this will spurn a bit of conversation, they say. What do you think, man? Will we get into it?
Sleep paralysis. I've had 3 experiences of that myself.
Yep. I've never had that myself, but heard a lot of people talking about that. It says here, taking into consideration the nature of my previous article on bedroom invasions, we may need to go and check that out, by supernatural creatures in the dead of night, I thought I would expand on all of this by focusing on the most famous creature of this type. You ready? Lilith. Yes. Mesopotamia has a long and rich history attached to it. It was where, around 12,000 years ago, the Neolithic Revolution began. It was the time period in which we, as a species, went from being wandering hunter-gatherers to people who put down firm roots and who began to grow their own food, rather than scavenge to stay alive. In that sense, Mesopotamia can be seen as a definitive cradle of civilization, and it was in the heart of the Mesopotamia that the most dangerous of all the many and varied succubus in history chose to hunt, and her name was Lilith. And hunt is a most appropriate term to use, since Lilith would mercilessly pursue and plague her victims until she got what she wanted. Yes, a little bit of that, a little bit of the hokey pokey, or at least the sexual energy. It should be noted, though, that some religions, such as those who adhere to Judaism and pagan faiths, revere Lilith. The name itself, Lilith, is very important. Like the word incubus, it has a deep ancient meaning. It means night hag, a most appropriate term to be sure. For the people of Mesopotamia, Lilith was to be avoided at all costs, if possible, of course. Her seductive and manipulative ways, though, ensured that most men were unable to resist her hypnotic charms, which seemed very inviting, but which, in reality, were nothing of the sort. Not even Adam himself, yes, that Adam from the Old Testament, was able to keep away from her, as will soon become apparent. As for her modus operandi, Lilith was said to stealthily access bedrooms in the dead of night, usually between, 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. I'm saying oh boy because in 17 minutes' time, we are entering the Lilith window of time. Yes, indeedy. which is when most supernatural activity still occurs today. Never mind millennia ago, and when the moon shines bright. A big picture of the moon for you there, Nacy. It says Lilith would carefully pull back the sheets of her victim's bed, ensure that the man was on his back, and then have her way with him, usually while he slept. Now, on occasion, though, a man would wake up in that earlier mentioned state of paralysis. Lilith ensured that the man would do the business quickly, and there was nothing of a loving or sensual nature to any of this. Lilith just needed seed, which she would then use to create her very own offspring. They were hideous, half-human, half-demonic monsters. As for the victims, they would wake feeling weak and tired, something that only got worse when Lilith decided to make repeat calls in the early hours and yet again drained them of their energy. It's hardly surprising that Lilith had such inextricable ties to Mesopotamia, and specifically to the Babylonians and the Sumerians. Within both cultures, there was a strong belief that demons were quite literally everywhere, manipulating and machinating as they ruthlessly saw fit, and in ways which made it clear that the people of the particular era were merely the playthings of the demons, using, abusing, and terrifying them as they saw fit. Particularly feared by the people were female demons, who were seen as the ones, more than any other, as those to be avoided at all costs. If one could avoid them, of course. Lilith was definitely the chief when it came to the she-devils. Much of the information and lore we have on Lilith and Mesopotamian succubus come from a groundbreaking book which was published in 1903. Its title was Devils and Evil Spirits of Babylonia. The author was Reginald C. Thompson. He was an English archaeologist who excavated extensively at numerous ancient sites in the Middle East, which was close to what is now the city of Mosul, Iraq. Nineveh is noted for being the largest city in the world up until around 600 BC. The devils and spirits of Babylonia. Now there's some bedtime reading, folks. It says, and just to round up this story, and then I'll get you in on this, Nacy. It said it was during the course of his digs that Thompson became friendly with many of the locals, something which ensured that he soon learned of the old legends of the incubus and the succubus, which he also learned were still believed in and accepted into the 19th and 20th centuries. Thompson was fascinated with, but also somewhat disturbed by, the tales of Lilith and her motley band of night monsters. The result? He chose to chronicle the history of the demons of the area in the aforementioned, now acclaimed book. For many, the book was a wake-up call. The legends of old were more than just legends, and the creatures of old were still very much among us. Yes, the incubus and the succubus, Nacy. You mentioned the whole sleep paralysis thing there, which is absolutely real, and I think a lot of people suffer from that, and they might then misinterpret what's going on. They might think they're under some kind of attack. But at the very same time, I think there are these entities, call it Lilith, call it the incubus, the succubus, whatever name you want to put on it. I do think that's a thing, dude. I really do think that's a thing. But what say the Nacy?
Old hag creaking in the dead of night, climbing in your bed while you sleep, taking your energy, all your life force. Yeah, I've had sleep paralysis 3 times. One time, I believe it was the old hag. And I think we've shared this within the year, but I'll share again. Most people know I'm in a wheelchair, and a lot of times I'll just sleep in my chair and tilt it back, because it tilts back 90 degrees. And on the back of my wheelchair, I have these, I call them my wheelie wheels, and it's to prevent from flipping backwards in the wheelchair. And you can push me back further when I'm tilted back, and my chair will actually move about an inch, and then it hits the wheelie wheels and it can't go back anymore. And so one time I woke up, I'm tilted back, and I felt pressure on my chest. And I couldn't speak, and I struggled to find words. There's times where, you know, some people will say they invoke, you know, Jesus Christ, or they'll invoke God. You know, when I do these protection rituals, ceremonies, I use my Anishinaabe language. You know, so I struggled to say some words, and by the time I was able to say the words, all of a sudden the pressure came off of my chest. But at the same exact time, the tilt of my chair went back to normal. And that's when I really got freaked out about it, because I've had freak paralysis before, where I've woken up and it's like I'm totally consciously awake, but I can't move. But I never felt like that pressure on my chest, like I did this one situation. You know, but then when the other times when I've had this sleep paralysis, that I'd wake up and I'm like pondering, am I dying? You know, is there something medically wrong with me? And, you know, a lot of times we will pray when those situations happen, you know, but yeah, the time when the chair shifted, that one really freaked me out, where I'm like something, it felt like it was on my chest. Then it makes me think of that horror movie about Shelley, the author of Frankenstein. I think it was called Gothica or Gothic, where it talked about in the mansion of where she came. Apparently she had a nightmare, and that's where she came up with the basis for Frankenstein, Mary Shelley. And in the movie, at one point they showed a woman sleeping with like a little night creature, you know, and it also makes me think of that Stephen King movie, Cat's Eyes, where there was that little ghouly creature that climbed up on the girl's chest and was able to like suck in her essence or her energy while she was sleeping. So
well, get a load of this, dude. Get a load of this. And to what you were saying there, I think it's perfectly natural to wake up if you're in that kind of paralyzed state to be getting really concerned health-wise. I think that would be where my mind goes first if that happened to me. But I was just looking through the chat room there, and wow, dude, we talk about the putting the U into the woo by opening up the phone lines and things. I hope we hear from this listener later on. But Rich, a big shout to Rich out there. And Rich was saying that he's had this happen, dude. Had this happen to him. And it happened to him around the time when he was having his awakening. That's what I mean. Just because it hasn't happened to me, and everyone knows I like to have a laugh and a joke. But that doesn't mean that I don't believe these things happen. I truly, truly do. So there's somebody out of 100 odd people on the YouTube end of things. I would imagine there's probably more people out there right now listening to this who have experienced something along these lines. I remember my mum, and a big shout to old Pearlie up there. She is under the gun when it comes to Storm Arwen. She was just messaging to say it's terribly stormy up there. I remember when she had an incident, that's what we'll call it. And she had gone to bed one night after coming home. I think she'd been working at the nursing home, if memory serves me correctly. And she got into bed. And then you know that feeling like when somebody sits on your bed and you get that depression? You know what I'm talking about, Nancy? Yeah.
Yes.
My mum got that. Now, she was frozen to the spot. Now, people would say, the more skeptical would say, well, there you go, Kev. There's your classic sleep paralysis. But I don't know. I don't know, because that one bedroom in that house when I was growing up, everyone seemed to have problems in it, apart from me. That's what I found the weirdest of all, because this was a room that typically people would avoid. There was 2 bedrooms upstairs. There was a big one, and then there was the horrible back one. And you had the entrance to the loft just outside the door and things. And this is the room where it happened to my mum. And I must admit, when I moved into that room, I was a little apprehensive, because I knew there was something going on with that room. We'd hear the grown-ups talking about it. But I can say quite safely, hand on heart, whatever was going on in that room, I never experienced it, Nacy. Now, does that mean I think my mum was lying? Absolutely not. She experienced something very, very real. And even me talking about it will probably bring back vivid memories of that. So, yeah, I would imagine listening to the show right now, there's probably more people who've got their own kind of stories about the incubi and the succubi. And hopefully they'll call into the show, Nacy, in hour number 3. Over to you, bro.
We've talked about it before, about extraterrestrials, and I've brought up the speculation about if these entities have the ability to cross the universe, then they would have some kind of algorithm or technology of where they could read our minds. And because of that ability, they could construct our thoughts or visions or hearing or senses to be their beck and wish. And so if they did not want to be noticed, then they could manipulate us to believe we're witnessing whatever they wish. And going back to the Lilith and the succubi, I've read in the whole UFO world, about the different encounters, and one that you hear about a lot is women claiming to be impregnated and losing their fetus, where one moment they're pregnant and weeks go by and they're no longer pregnant, and they're claiming that entities came and took their babies out of them. So if this is happening to women, I wouldn't doubt it if there are men that are for more of I'm trying to think of a word, being milked for that generative force for the same reason, whether it be genetically manipulating the humanoids to a
Hold that thought, we will be right back. Don't go anywhere, folks. Yes, indeed. Oh, it's starting to warm up nicely. Thank you, Rich. Rich says that he is actually a repeat experiencer more than once with these entities. Not so good. We'll be back to discuss all of this and more. And we'll be opening up the phone lines in the second half of the show. One more segment, and me and Nacy will open up the phones for you to bring the woo. boy, oh boy. I thought the Wookiee was starting to get a bit better there, but it doesn't sound like it. No, 1 hour down, 2 to go on your Freaky Friday. Yes, indeed. Big shout out to everyone over there in the Wookiee Cave at tfrlive.com/chat. Yes, you can go and hang out over there with all the other Wookiees. We're going out on the home, of course, of Freaky Friday, Truth Frequency Radio. And today, we're also going out to YouTube. Big shout out to all the YouTubers out there. And over to Disco as well. Not Disco. I always get my Discos and my Twitches mixed up. It's a sign that I'm getting old. I'm getting too old for this game, they say. When you can't remember how many platforms you're going out on, maybe it's time not to be going out on any. But 1 hour down, dude, we'll do this segment. And then we'll open up the phones. How does that sound?
Sounds like it's a wonderful plan. I can't believe how quick it's already going.
I know.
I'm like, what? The first hour's done?
I know. I was thinking that myself. Yes, indeed. And since we're on the incubus, succubus type information, I'm going to go back to a little website I found a few weeks ago. It's called yourghoststories.com. I was very hesitant in giving away this website because it's got so much good stuff that I could genuinely make shows out of for years to come. But they've got a full segment on the incubus, the succubus, and sexual ghosts. So I've chosen one at random here. We're going to get into that. It says, now I'm not sure how to explain this experience or what to do about it, but I really need help in stopping whatever is happening from destroying my marriage. 2 seconds. There we go. I have gone over this story a couple of times and tried my best to remove anything that was too graphic because I want it to be taken seriously. I'm a 34-year-old and married 12 years to a wonderful man. We have a beautiful daughter of 11 that we both love to... excuse me. that we both love to spoil terribly. We're not religious, and before all of this, I would never believe a story like the one I'm about to tell you. And I'm trying to figure out how to tell this tale without sounding like somebody that should be committed. Well, this individual should feel very at home with an audience like Freaky Friday. We'd be right at home here. We wouldn't judge her on her story. No. It says, we recently purchased our dream home in a more rural area of our state, and have been settling in fairly well until the last 3 weeks or so. Things started with just noticing little movements in the corner of my eye in our bedroom at night. Shadows would move when there was nothing to cause the movement, and they seemed centered around the corner of the room by the walk-in closet. At first, I just put it off to being in a new home and not being used to the way that the lights move when a car drives by outside, but since noticing the shadows, more things have been happening. I started to notice that the closet door was always open when I looked at it. I was sure I closed it, but the next time I walked into the room, it would be open. My husband thought I was just imagining it, or that my daughter was playing a trick on me. We tested it together once by closing the door and leaving the room to check on our daughter. When we both returned, the door was partly open. My husband joked that we must have bought a house on an Indian burial ground. I tried to laugh and accept it as a quirk of the house, but recently things have started to happen in our bed at night. Hey, when you've been married over 11 years, when things are happening in the bed at night, you should be quite happy, right? I'm only joking, folks. I'm only joking. Oh, dear me. I have been waking up at night feeling the bed shift. For a while, I put it off to my husband rolling over, and I ignored it. Last week, I was awakened by a movement of the bed. It was almost rhythmic. At first, I thought my husband was rolling over, but I felt it again when I was awake. My husband was asleep next to me, not moving, but I noticed his breathing was a bit fast, and I wondered if he maybe was having a dream. It was a warm night, and we had just been using sheets to stay cool, and I was about to lay down when I felt the shift of weight again. This time I was looking at my husband, and he had definitely not shifted. But he did let out a low moan like you would in a dream if something was bothering you. I looked around the bed for a source of the movement and noticed that the sheet shift at my husband's waist. His hands were both under his pillow, since he likes to sleep that way, on his back, with his hands under his head. I could see movement under the sheets at his groin, and thought for a moment he was having a nice dream. But then they moved again, and it wasn't a movement that a dream could cause. I gently moved the sheets aside to see my husband's boxers being pulled down, and him in a very excited state. I'm not sure how to tell this, and try to keep things from sounding a bit R-rated movie, but as I watched him, things moved in ways that should not be able to do on their own. Skin was moving like it had been touched, and there was heavy breathing. I was scared, not understanding what was going on. I thought maybe I was dreaming or going crazy. I said his name a few times, but he did not respond. I shook him, and finally he opened his eyes and looked at me. But then he moaned. I shook him harder, and everything stopped. He was awake, looking at me and confused. I told him everything that happened, and he told me that maybe he had a dream, but he swears he had felt something down there. He said it was a gentle, almost electric feeling of pinpricks and feather touches that felt very sexually intense. Well, I was at a loss for words. I didn't know what to think or what to do. I was suddenly intensely jealous. He was still in a state and said he could feel it faintly, and almost wished I had not woken him up. I just looked at him for a moment, not believing what he had just said. Then I angrily got out of bed and went to sleep on the sofa. In the morning, I went into our bedroom to talk to him and found him asleep naked, with all of our sheets, his boxers, and the t-shirt thrown on the floor. The bed looked like it does after one of those energetic romps, and I could smell his lingering scent in the air that told me something had happened. I stormed out of the room and went to get my daughter her breakfast, and when he got up, he looked sheepish and guilty. We didn't say 3 words to each other, and he quietly got ready for work and left me and my daughter and a whirlwind of emotions out into an angry cleaning mode, and changed the bedding that still smelled of him, and then started cleaning the rest of the house while my daughter played on the PlayStation. She asked if we were fighting, and I admitted to her that I was a little mad at Daddy. She asked if it was because of all the noise he made last night, and I looked at her confused and asked her what noise. She said Daddy was moaning all night, and she wondered if maybe he was sick. I told her not to worry, and I made her lunch and talked to her about how her schoolwork was going this year with distance learning. When my husband got home, I asked him what had happened, and he looked at me shaking his head and said he really didn't know. He said after I left the room, he felt like a flood of static pinpricks, as you would feel when your arm falls asleep. It slowly crept up his legs. He said it felt good, but it frightened him a little too. And when the feeling reached his hips and his privates, all the feelings returned even stronger than before. He said he remembered not being able to resist the feelings, as they were far beyond anything he had ever felt with me. That's not what you want to go saying to your wife if you have like a liaison with the succubus. Come on, man. He said they went on...
I don't think any man would be able to resist at that point.
And you don't tell your wife, though, that the succubus was better, Kev. That's like it's a no-no. He said they went on and on for quite a while. He said he eventually passed out and fell asleep. He told me he was sorry, and he loved me, and he didn't want it to happen. And he was frightened by how seductive the feelings were, and that he couldn't resist responding to them. I could see he was really upset and scared, so I just held him and told him everything was going to be all right. Nervously, we went to bed that night. At a little after 2 a.m., I woke to the bed moving again, and a moan from my husband. Whatever it is, it was attacking him again, and I could see his state, and I hugged him and told him he would be okay. I looked around the room and told whatever it was to go away, I pulled back the sheets, and again his boxers were down, and he was being molested. He awoke and looked at me scared, and I told it again to stop and go find someone else. My husband looked at me in the eyes and gasped, and he was sorry. And he had a happy moment, shall we say. I had never seen anything like it. I was so scared and jealous. And after everything stopped, we just held each other. And he kept telling me he was sorry and kept saying it wasn't his fault. And to round this up, it says, this has been happening almost every night now. And I'm exhausted from the lack of sleep. You're exhausted? Think of your poor husband. Because my husband is feeling horrible about it. But he says it's not a feeling he can fight, since it starts when he is asleep. I don't know what to do, but I am jealous and hurt, and I know, or I don't know, what is doing this to him. I'm afraid something is taking my husband from me, and I can't fight it. Now I know all this sounds crazy, and I must be insane, but I saw this site and read the stories here, and they all sounded similar to what we are experiencing. What can I do? I'm at my wit's end. And how can this be real? Nacy, what do you have to say to all of that, man?
Succubus in the dead of night, finding men for delight. All my life I've been searching for a succubus to come arrive. I don't know. It's definitely going to be trying on any relationship. You would think maybe, the whole fornication under consensual knowledge would occur. And I think I remember, wasn't there some kind of court case or something about a woman having a challenge with such a nature, but it was flipped the other way, an incubus?
No idea, dude.
But I thought we talked about some woman that was having some kind of court challenge for the same thing. But like I was saying before the break, collection of the life force, the generative. I think that would be the craziest if the entity ejaculated and yet nothing was produced. And then that's where I would be really nervous. But I guess, I don't know. So many thoughts go in my head about proving something's happening, because you'd think if there was actually, this starts getting into the rated PG-13 now. But yeah. So you just kind of ponder, the whole process of a man going through that whole experience. If there was some entity actually there, you would see, I'm assuming, you would see some kind of deflection or weird splattering or you know what I'm trying to say?
Well, by the sounds of it, this woman was looking around the room. There was nothing she could physically see. She could see the effects that it was having on her husband. Yeah, pretty scary, man.
Well, if she's witnessing his boxers being pulled down, I guess, unless it's, I don't know. I guess if it's insertion, or if it's just, yeah, it'd be weird nonetheless. But yeah, I can't say I don't know, would you call that fortunate to have an experience?
Me personally, absolutely. Absolutely. A very toxic male. Demons want to come and have their way. Nah, listen, it's one thing sitting here and laughing and joking about it. And that's because it's not happening to me. We had one guy in the chat room, Rich, with that story there. I'll tell you what, I can scroll and scroll and scroll down all of these different tales. Now, even if 90% of them are made up, that still leaves a 10% that are real.
Right?
Exactly, dude. Exactly. And that's what always worries me, you know. Just takes one, and I definitely believe that this is a real thing, you know.
Oh yeah, I talk about the full spectrum of it, you know, one end being it's not true at all, and the other spectrum that it is true. So yeah, just again, we play the odds, and the numbers would say yes, such occurrences have happened. And then when you look at the Goetians and you learn about these entities throughout history, you know, why the heck not? I'd prefer them, you know, again, consensual knowledge, if that's your thing. I would think that, you know, maybe the partners would try to figure out something so everybody can enjoy it, because you know that man he's not like 100% committed to complaining about the occurrence. I'm pretty sure he's about 95% not happy, minimally, that it's happening.
I still think my life advice holds true. Any guys out there who fall victim to the incubus, do not go telling your wife that the incubus was better. Just don't do that. It doesn't matter if it's factual or not. Yeah, it ain't gonna end up well, and they say it ain't gonna end well, right?
Well, you shouldn't even make comment about her cooking, nonetheless. Beyond that,
Is there any equivalent type entities from your Paleo-American lore? Is there anything like sexual ghosts, for lack of a better term?
well, have you ever heard of the deer woman? So supposedly there's the deer woman, where she is a beautiful entity, yet she has deer legs, and she usually wears kind of like long dresses and stuff, and she
Now, I've got one
hunts.
strict rule about women. If they've got hairy legs at all, dude, it's not happening, man. It's not happening. So if it's got hairy deer legs and hoofs, I'm out. I'm gone.
Right.
I'm done.
Well, supposedly she preys upon men that are highly toxic and negative entities towards women, and they'll purposely.
So she likes a bad boy then? She likes the right bad boys?
Right, but unfortunately these bad boys find themselves punctured with antlers.
Ouch.
and not alive after the experience. So that's the downside of it. I have heard that there are rituals or ceremonies where you can call, and you know, I don't know if you can call and direct them, but you could inform the deer woman of Wawashkeshki Ikwe, and point out these men of such nature. So, yeah, whether you want to call it karma or the universal balance, you know, be careful. Who knows if you're with a succubi or incubus?
And that's what I do, gents. That's what to do. Just gently take a look over the shoulder of the succubus, incubus, whichever one we're going for, and ensure it doesn't have hairy deer legs. If it's got
Or a
hairy
white
deer
tail.
legs, get out of there. A tail as well, yeah. A tail's definitely a sure sign to get out of bed rapid. Yeah, but when you mentioned the deer legs there, my mind goes straight to the cloven feet. The handsome man that was in the village hall up in Fort Augustus. He had the hairy legs under the kilt. He had the bad dodgy legs. He had the Baphomet goat legs, dude.
Well, that's the Pan or the Fader, you know, of the wilderness, playing his I can't remember what those flutes are called, you know, that have the different sides tubes. Fife. I can't remember what it's called, but Yeah. They would entice women into the forest and have a romp in the wilderness with these women. But yeah, I mean, I'd like to say to each his own, but I don't know. Is that going to be the next super wokeness? Extra species relationships?
Who knows, dude? I'm trying to look for one of these stories that I can read out without sounding like an absolute degenerate deviant. Let's see, this one here. We'll go for this one. Coming from Ireland. We'll go for it. We'll try it. Yeah. It says Creeper Incubus. Oh boy. It comes from Ireland. It says, this is really hard to talk about because it scares me a lot. It still happens. And what disgusts me is that I like the experience. You see, I knew there would be some freaky deaky lunatic out there who conjures these things because he enjoys them. So it says, last summer I went to Dublin, Ireland, with a friend. Don't worry, I'm not going to put on a crap Irish accent. Don't worry, folks. Scottish accent, far superior. Just saying. We were staying at this cabin resort with separate rooms built like houses. Now, the area was on the outskirts of Dublin and full of vegetation, which kind of creeped me out because I felt as if something was watching me. So, hang on a minute, the place was full of vegetation and that made you feel like something was watching you? Do you often get watched by potatoes and cabbages and things like that? Yeah, I suppose it is what it is. So it says the first night, I was just flipping through the channels when I heard this smooth voice. It was calling my name, and it sounded so close. I freaked out and covered myself with the blankets. The next few weeks, I felt this intense heat run through me whenever I heard the thing call my name. The cabin didn't have heating, and Dublin during the evening is freezing, so I knew there couldn't be a logical explanation. One night, I had my iPod plugged into the stereo. The thing started calling my name, and I froze with fear when the scariest thing happened. The stereo started going all staticky, and I could clearly hear Piper, my name, being said. I tried going to sleep, but that only made things worse. The bed tilted downwards, like someone was sitting on the edge of it. Dang. There we go. That ties in with what old Pearlie felt back in the day. I could barely breathe, and I screamed when I saw a misty figure there, just staring at me. Light shone on its face, and he was beautiful, like Prince Charming or something. I think I was seduced at that point, but I can't be sure because I was in a state of unconsciousness. I knew what was happening, but I wasn't all there. What I later found out was an incubus suddenly was beside me. I felt it stroking my hair, the side of my body, my cheek. The heat was ablaze, like I was on fire. I felt a tingling sensation go from my toes all the way to the tip of my head. My arms were pinned down, and then I felt something stroking my legs. Yes, indeed. Okay, so to be honest, at this point, I was scared crapless, but I decided to go along with it, as you do. I felt something large go into my... It went in, and yep, gently, yep, we can imagine. I was in physical pain, but couldn't cry out because, in a way, I was enjoying it. I think I fell asleep in its arms because my head wasn't touching the pillow. The next day I was bleeding. My guess had been from the incubus guy. All 2 months this passed, and I never once mentioned this to my friend Harley. When I came back to the States, the thing followed me. Last school year, when I was a junior, I felt this piercing pain in my stomach and my chest when I spoke to any guy, including teachers. It was like this incubus is jealous or something. I can barely even speak to my dad. Sometimes I see more of him, the spirit. It's like he's getting more human. He's always doing things so that I'll go to bed faster. To be truthful, I'm afraid. I don't know what to do. I think I'm going to go and talk to a priest or something. I'm Catholic, but I haven't been to the church in a while. I know now is the time to start going again. If anyone out there has some helpful tips, please post them in the comments. And honestly, I feel so vulnerable and I need help. Well, to be honest with you, my own personal advice would be you're probably better off in the arms of the incubus than you are the priest. But what say you? And they say, we're on the break, dude. And we're going to shift gears after the break. We're going to open the phone because this is getting all too intimate with these demons out there. Boy, oh boy. It's getting almost X-rated and we ain't like that on here. We'll be back after the break, folks. Don't go anywhere. I can only imagine the complaints and the hate mail that Mr. Geo will probably have to put up with following this Freaky Friday broadcast. But yes, we'll be opening up the phone lines after the break. Keep it real, keep it woo, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to put the you into the woo. Yes, indeed. Second half of today's freaky, and it's getting very freaky around here. Freaky Friday, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, indeedy. The incubus and the succubus is what we've been getting into. By the sounds of it, they've been getting into a lot of people as well. Boom, boom. Boy, oh boy, I didn't think it would get quite as X-rated as it did there with some of those stories, Nacy. And there was some stories I looked at that I just could not share. Could not share at prime time. It's not for the weak-hearted, my friend. I had no idea that there was potentially such a problem with these entities. These ethereal...
Well, you know...
These ethereal... what's the word for them? I don't know, dude. I can't even come up with a term, a witty term for them. What do you say to it all, man?
Well, trying to look at it from my ancestors' perspective, it all of a sudden made me start thinking of the stories about different spirits impregnating women, and from that occurrence, that supernatural Anishinaabe were the results. You know, one example is Wenebushu and Nanabushu, the teachers. You know, but I was trying to remember the other one about the dang it, I cannot remember what his name was, but there was another wilderness Manadu or spirit that impregnated a woman. And there's many different stories. I know the Lakota, Dakota, Nakota people, they have one also. I believe the white buffalo woman came from that, white buffalo calf woman. And it makes me think about, you know, the other entities or cryptids, you know, or even like the Bigfoot, you know, because you ponder about these missing 411, especially when they happen to be women. So would the Bigfoot, excuse me, Sasquatch, need to add new blood to the bloodline, and thus utilizing a human for a surrogate, what would you call it, birthing? I can't imagine a normal woman would survive the birth of a Sasquatch. But
don't give people ideas. That'll be the next LARP on YouTube. I was taken by a Sasquatch and it had its way with me. I can see it now, dude. I can hear the whistleblowers.
well, what about the anomaly Sasquatches? You know, from such a union, where they'd be teased because they're like, you know, you're so hairless.
I can honestly say I've never thought that deeply about the Sasquatch in relation to 411s. I can honestly say that.
But yeah, hey, is there like half ghost, half human hybrid out there now from the result of these occurrences? And worse yet, what if you were a male and your incubus was a male too, and you're not like consenting to these night occurrences? Because it's nothing worse than falling asleep on your belly and waking up feeling uncomfortable.
Yeah, we definitely need the phone lines open because this is just getting crazy. If you want to call into the show, all you got to do is dial 213-233-3998. That's 213-233-3998 and rescue our Freaky Friday. It's headed for the sewer, folks. It's gone downhill. It's gone downhill. That's my fault for bringing those pesky incubus and succubus into it. But by the sounds of it, Nacy, I don't think too many people go into the relationship or the encounter with the incubus or the succubus very willingly. I don't think there's a whole heap of consensual stuff going on there. Hey, and if there is, have at it. If you can find a demon or a demoness to get your rocks off with, and they too consent to such bizarre relations, then hey, each to their own, they say, right? Each to their own.
Now I remember the story about the woman who was trying to divorce the ghost, where she wrote about wanting to break up with her ghost partner because it wasn't being faithful. It was a story with Scotty that we covered one time many years ago, or a few years ago, or many shows ago.
I would.
Is this a Mandela I'm
No, it's
having?
not a Mandela. It's not a Mandela. I do remember vaguely. I think some people. I think maybe some people. I don't know. How can I put this without offending anyone? Maybe some people let their imaginations run away with them, and we've got to be open to the fact that somebody that's claiming that the ghost has cheated on them and they're wanting to take them to court and things. Maybe, just maybe, there might be a bit of mental imbalance going on there. I don't know. I'm not a psychiatrist. I don't know how to diagnose people, but I don't know, dude. That just seems, even
Our
for
need
me,
of dopamine.
even for me, that seems a bit out there, right?
Yeah, some people are super addicted to the dopamine.
You're right there. You're right there. So what other ghostly, ghouly type stuff can we get into while we're waiting for our first caller, Nacy? Save me,
Well,
man. Take me away from these pesky night demons. I'm only jealous. Dude. None come visit me. Feeling left
well,
out.
we started with the vampires, and with the vampires, we think about the night. And in the northern hemisphere, we are getting into winter. And as most people know, I am a lunatic, literally, about the moon. And I've been paying attention to, the moon, because when we look at the month, like right now, it's November. So Nova is 9, and Ember, where earlier it was called the 9th Ember of the year cycle. And it is about to start the 10th. In the November 4th is going to start the 10th Ember of the moon cycle. My ancestors, we celebrate the new year in spring in the northern hemisphere. And if I remember correctly, in Australia, they look at our spring as, or no, this last spring was their equinox, or their beginning of the calendar month. And it's interesting, as I pay attention to the shifts of the moon, that we just had this jump forward daylight savings, which takes your count of the night and it throws it off. So an example, you push your clock forward. So if that evening was going to be 10 hours of darkness, in one evening it became 11 hours. And so it threw off totally the whole tracking of sunrise and sunset and how it's changed. And I am speculating that this coming up new moon on the 4th, at the end of this new moon, is going to be the starting of the actual winter solstice, which is cool in the northern hemisphere, because that means the days are going to start getting longer already. But it's a little unfortunate for down under in Australia, where their days are going to get shorter. But it's really difficult when you try to investigate this and plot these lengths of time, when you get so many contradicting websites. And I've still been trying to find one clock to follow, which is the clock of all clocks that all clocks around the world, globe, sphere, follow with. So if you all, listening audience, can do me a favor, take a measurement of your sunrise and sunset and see where you're at. If you're in the northern hemisphere, the length of day is going to be between 8 and 8.5 hours. And then it's going to go back to switching to longer days. But it's really easy to track because all you do is you pay attention to the sunrise and sunset. And at some point, it's all of a sudden going to shift from going longer and longer to shorter, going shorter to shorter to longer. Because on a normal or average, it's between 1.5 minutes and 3 minutes a day change in the day length or night length. And then when you throw on top of that the cycle of the moon, because the moon doesn't ever rise at the exact time every day. There is a cycle that it goes through. And as I've stated many times, in the last 2 years, the moon cycle has been so off that it doesn't make sense to me. Just for a quick example, I can't remember what moonrise today was, but say it rose at 10 a.m. today. So tomorrow, in a normal cycle, it would rise around 11:30 a.m. But then you find out that the change is less than an hour and a half. And so then that means the orbital pattern of the ellipsis of our moon is shifting that dramatically. And how can that happen? Speculation is that there is a greater electromagnetic force in our solar system, whether it be Nibiru, Planet X, Blue Kachina, Red Dragon, yada, 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 or our sun being consistently hit with the meteorites throughout our solar system, that it causes electromagnetic flux, thus causing a shift in our electromagnetic fields, thus causing a change in the electromagnetic relationship of the Earth and the moon. Could the moon go so far beyond its electromagnetic point of attraction that we'd lose our moon if the pull was strong enough, or the push strong enough? It potentially could happen. And finishing off what were we calling it? Hashtag Black Winter?
Dark
Black
winter.
Friday, Dark Winter. Well, I guess it goes with today and Black Friday. And we can say that the cycles of average or normalcy in the last 10 years have definitely been off. And I've witnessed this in the last 20 years of the difference of occurrence. And so,
Nathan, how many people, like when you're looking into this, how many people share this this thing with you where the moon's wrong? Is there a
Well-
lot of people out there looking at this?
This is where I feel the most bizarre, like I'm a loner, because I try to entice other people to look this up, and I have a handful of agreeers when they start, when you literally start charting the sunrise and sunset and the moonrise and the moonset, and then you plot it, you see the change of it. And there is, they talk about 27.5 day month of the moon, but there's also a 29.7 day. There's two separate moon counts, because some say that the whole new moon occurrence is like a 72-hour occurrence. And so from the apex of the new moon to the next new moon is a 29.7 period, but then the beginning of the new moon to the beginning of the new moon is allegedly a 27.5 day occurrence. But either way, the individuals that I reached out, and Clyde Lewis, I called in once to Clyde Lewis' show and explained this to him, and we actually, and is this hubris or ego? But we were talking about doing a show about it, and we were back and forth in contact, and next thing you know, nothing happened of it. And I just don't like putting myself into oubliettes. And I know when I start going down the moon rabbit hole that I can spend hours and hours searching for the answers. So I don't like to take precious moments doing such things. But when I notice the big changes or the big differences, then I...
Wouldn't the tides change though, dude? Wouldn't the tides change?
Well, they do.
Yeah, but you can also go and find out what exact time the tides get be in and out. So that tells me that they know somebody somewhere knows roughly where the moon's meant to be, right?
Well, yeah, because if you look at the correlation of the tides and the moon, as the moon is at a certain angle away from the water, it pulls the water towards the moon. And so then you'll have high tide or low tide, depending on if the moon is with the spin or against the spin on the opposite, you could say east or west of the shoreline with the position of the moon. And so it causes this tide shift back and forth. And I don't think that the tide is another by the clock, by the second occurrence. It stays roughly within, the hour, give or take a half an hour, I think is how the tides, which would make sense, because if it's like in a bathtub where it sloshes from one side to the other, it kind of keeps a rhythm of going back and forth, because that's how waves work.
Looking at this here,
oscillate.
it says, I looked up the Murray Firth because that's where I'm from, up north. So it says on the 26th of November, which was, yesterday now in the UK. Hang on till I get the website up so people can see what I'm talking about here. It says on high tide on Friday, it's Saturday here now, but it said 3:52 a.m. Then low tide would be 9:09 a.m. High tide would then be 4:03 p.m. and low tide 10:16 p.m. And I'm not sure how far the they actually like forecast this into the future, but it seems to be pretty well marked out. I don't know how this ties in with your moon thing right enough to that. I don't know. Like I say, I have to apologize when it comes to the stuff you talk about with the moon, because this is the way I see it is, I would expect not to put you down or your theory down or anything, Nacy. You know I'm not doing that. I would expect a lot of other people to be shouting from the rooftops that there's a major problem with the moon and its cycles, but I'm not seeing that. I'm not hearing it. Now, that's not to say it's not going on, but I don't know, dude. I don't know. I'm not sure what's going on here at all.
Well, I mean, it's all speculation, but like I said, when you literally like graphed it, you see this cycle, although it's not the same year by year, and there is an oscillation. That's what I'm finding out, that there's cycles, but the cycles is continuously oscillating. Just like when we think we're stationary right now, we're not feeling or witnessing the fact that this hurtling rock is, zooming through the solar system, spinning around the sun. William Cooper, one of my favorite of all theorists and conspiracy acknowledgers, he used to say, if you want to know how UFOs work, figure out how the planets stay in conjunction with each other. And when you dig into that, it comes to electromagnetic, the whole principle of the occurrence of electromagnetic fields and their relationships that they have with each other. And there's a full spectrum, literally, or levels of the electromagnetic field. So we know, like when we witness supermoons, and when, because of this relationship between the Earth and the moon, that the moon is a little bit closer to the Earth. And then on top of it, you put in the magnification that occurs along the horizon, where the moon looks really huge, because it's somewhat amplified, because in the atmosphere, there are all these chemicals, especially water, that shows and helps that amplification of the light. But it's really interesting in itself. And the one question that I beg of the audience, if they could help me find, I am still trying to find the regulatory committee that says, hey, all of you calendars out there, this is when you put the full moon on, and this is when you put the new moon on. This is the date you use.
1 hour left to go, folks. We will be right back. There we go. Now I need to find my music again. And apologies to everyone out there. I thought the house was about to blow away. Wow, what a gust of wind that was. Let me pull up my music again, folks. Give me 2 seconds. I think we got back on air rather quickly. I think that might have been under a minute. Probably about 2 minutes, but we got there in the end, folks. That's the main thing, right? Here we go. We'll be back in 3 minutes. Don't go anywhere.
really mother could slide out.
Ah, yes, and just like that, we were back. Hour number 3 on today's Freaky Friday. We want to hear woo from all of you. If you want to call into the show, all you need to do is dial the following number. That's 213-233-3998. That's 213-233-3998. I'm still trying to catch up and make sure everything's still working at this end, Nacy. The wind is picking up as we speak. If we do happen to get cut off again, I may have to throw in the towel, but fingers crossed we'll be good to go. Any further thoughts during the break, Nacy? What's going on, man? Where are we going?
Well, one thing that I want to point out for absolute, that paying attention to the heavens is what we as a species have been doing since time immemorial. And if you don't believe me, take a look at where all of these obelisks are. And an obelisk, one of the functions of an obelisk, the penis of Osiris, is utilized as a calendar or a sundial. And if you look at the Vatican and the square there, you'll see how it is basically set up like a clock. And in the center of the face of that clock, where there's a circle encompassed within a square, and in the center point is the obelisk. And then you see how it's divided to where the shadow of the obelisk will go to different markings around there. The same thing occurs in London, and the same thing occurs in Washington, D.C. And I've stated this many, many times, that if you look at the Washington Monument, at certain times of the year, the shadow of that monument pierces the Oval Office, the ovum, the woman, and the tip of its shadow lies on the steps of the oldest Masonic temple in Washington, D.C. Coincidence? Synchronicities? That this whole grand design was set up to measure the shadow of the Washington Monument? I don't know. But you look around the world,
I don't
my
think
people...
I think the guy that designed Washington DC, if memory serves me correctly, it was a Frenchman, and very, very, very laid out Masonically. So that doesn't surprise me at all, dude.
Well, there's a great documentary out there and book. It's called Riddles in Stone.
Yep.
And they talk about exactly what you just stated, how within the design of the streets, and then you find this out throughout the country in America, that some of these cities were purposely designed a certain way. And then when you even go back further in history, you find out a lot of these pinnacle points of major cities were once major hubs or spiritual in nature to the indigenous or Paleo-Americans. And then when we add in the whole fact of ley lines, and then you step back even further, these ley lines have something to do with electromagnetic principles. And if electromagnetic principles are running and ruling the universe, then when the alignment occurs, what is it stated? We set our alarm to wake up at a certain point. So have we become so woke that we're asleep and the alarm has been going off and everybody's trying to hit the snooze button and we can't find it because that alarm just keeps going off to wake up?
Those pesky Masons. Maybe. Those pesky Masons. Yes, if people want to call in, all you got to do, hopefully, is call 213-233-3998. That's 213-233-3998. I say hopefully because the fact that we're even still on air right now is actually like a miracle unto itself. I'm not sure what it is like where you are, for anyone listening in the UK. Dang, good kite weather out here tonight in Smart City, Glasgow, that's for sure. Being under the data dome certainly doesn't keep the windy weather away. That's for sure. I can only imagine what it's like up my mum's way right now, dude. A good storm been had by all.
People could call in and they could get the double K divination of their world. You got a deck of cards there, Kev? You can pull a card out for him?
Not handy, no. I can't say I've got a deck of cards.
You got a
handy.
wooden nickel?
No. Fresh out of
Got
tarot.
a nickel we could flip?
fresh out of money. I've never got any money to flip, dude. No tarot cards, no playing cards. I don't know where my playing cards are. Don't own tarot cards. Nothing against tarot cards.
Maybe
just don't own a set.
Maybe that's one thing that we could do sometimes in the future. I could ask of my daughter if she'd be willing to pull cards for people. Because I do have 3 different tarot decks. And
you see, that's one of the things that kind of puts me off the tarot as well. I think there's something to it, but then you find out there's all these different sets of cards and different ways of reading into them, and I don't know, man. I don't know. What do you think to that, though?
Well, if you look at the history of the tarot, that would be it'd be wonderful if we could get Mary to join us on a Freaky Friday and maybe do a history of the tarot cards, because the basic deck of cards, playing cards, that stemmed from the tarot cards. That they had all of these different types of games that utilize cards or runes, where it basically was a rock, kind of like throwing the bones. The bones, when paper was able to be constructed, then throwing the bones instead of saying, pinky finger bone, they called it the Two of Pentacles, or the Two of Spades, or the Six of Diamonds, or, you got your 4 suits, your 4 arcanas, and your major and minor cards. And so you think maybe when they would use a person's hand, where they would have all the bones of a hand, and then they would drop them and then see how they land. And they would say, oh, look, there's an index finger. The third metacarpal of the index finger is crossing over the second metacarpal of the thumb, and that over that millionth times of rolling the bones, that person of divination has come to the conclusion that when that happens, this more likely can happen. It's all more or less speculation, and then you have to check the data. And then if you find out that, hey, when I roll the bones and this happens because of my gift, I am able to make this prediction, and 77% of the time I'm right. But there's that percentage of where I'm wrong. And it's the whole full spectrum. If you're going to go and find somebody to help you with divination, take measure of their prediction. And if you find out, hey, this person is spot on, and then continue. But, why keep giving your money to somebody if they're not even close on speculating this way or the other? Because I do believe we all have that.
In it, man. There's something in it. I'll never forget the fortune teller I went to when I was in the army. I was laughing. I'm like, as if this is going to be any good. Some crazy old woman with a crystal ball. She's a charlatan. Even back then, I thought there was something to it. Don't get me wrong. I think there are people who can look into the future, who can tell your fortune. But I must admit, that day I wasn't too overly impressed. I was with my girlfriend at the time, and we thought we were really clever. We really did. We thought, right, well, when we go to the gala, it was the local gala, we'll go separate. We won't walk together, so nobody can see us together. We'll get 2 separate readings. She went for hers, and I went in a couple hours later. And she had already been told that she was going out with a man in uniform. And then when I went in, the woman said, "Oh man, do I not love a man in uniform?" And that freaked me out. So I sat down, and then what she told me I thought was utterly outrageous. Utterly outrageous, because she said, "Kev, there's two paths here for you. And one path keeps you on your career. You know, you go on and you do this, you do that, blah, blah, blah. Everything's just the way that you would like it to go. You've mapped out for yourself." But she says, "I see this other path. It's a harder path." But she says, "You know, one of these days, if you go down this road," she says, "one day in the future," and this is the bit I'll never forget because I almost burst out laughing. And I'll tell you why in a moment. She says, "But one day in the future," and she pulled back the curtain, and it was all the people at the local gala. And she said, "All of these people out here, they'll all be coming to listen to you." And I burst out laughing, right? Because at that time I was very, very, I wouldn't say introverted, but I'm not the sort of guy that would go and stand up in front of a crowd of people and give a speech. I certainly never seen myself as somebody who would be doing a talk show, talking to hundreds or thousands of people around the world. And it was, I think people will remember, it wasn't that long ago, a couple of years ago, it kind of dawned on me. That all came back to me, that whatever that woman was seeing, and she was reading my hand at the time, that played out pretty well, and it was pretty accurate to the point where it absolutely freaked me out. Can I remember her name? No, I can't. Can I remember much else? No, but I tell you what, Nacy, people might be sceptical. They might be saying, well, she was hedging her bets, you know. I don't know, dude, there was something to that. And the way that she said, these people will be listening to you, it's just what this show's become. And here I am, not on the career path that I'd chosen, but not any better or worse life path I've taken. But we are where we are, and now, well, I do speak to hundreds or thousands of people around the world. That's bizarre, dude, and I'll never ever be able to get away from that. And I'm sure people out there have had their own confirmations, you know, with things like that. Maybe you've gone to see a fortune teller, a medium, something. Doesn't mean all of them are telling the truth. I think most of them are probably just trying to party with your money. But then every now and again they say there's definitely something to this, whether it's tarot cards, whether it's whatever form of divination. There are some people out there that can pick up on the future, right?
Oh, absolutely. And then for those entities that are so in tune that they don't even need tools for their gifts, you know, because there are those people also.
Oh, no, hang on, hang on now. This is new information to me. Coming in from old Squirrely Pearly up there in Inverness. It was Gypsy Rose Lee. She remembers it well. My mum remembers it to this day. So that was the name. Gypsy Rose Lee. There you go.
Pearly.
And a big thank you to Marty.
Dearly beloved.
Marty. Big thank you to Marty. But yes, you were saying I better let you give my mum her dopamine. She likes her dopamine. They say go for it.
We are gathered here today to get through this thing called life. Electric word, Pearly.
Mm-hmm.
Brings me a giggle.
Gypsy Rose Lee. Damn, my mum's got a bit of a memory going on there. But that was a weird one, dude. I must admit. And the fact that it only dawned on me one night doing the show, I remember that quite vividly as well. But yeah, there's something to it, man.
Yeah, well, I strongly urge people to, you know, reflect upon their abilities, because I'm so in the belief, feeling that everybody has the power of divination. Is whether or not, like a gymnast continues to practice and exercises for their full potential of their gift. And when we hone our gift, when we practice, we strengthen that gift. And why would you not, you know, utilize it? Because I've noticed in my experience that when I look for the synchronicities, when I look for the cycles and I find the pattern, life is so much easier. so much easier to go through the patterns. It's when we get all wrapped up in like wanting our desires fulfilled instead of our needs, because I know that that we know there's things that we don't need. We've just been conditioned to believe it's in our best interest, or it fulfills a convenience or a desire. And I have noticed that when intent is put out there to fulfill needs, then the needs are fulfilled. It's when it's the wants that makes things a little bit more difficult. And I'm not opposed to people getting what they want. Where my challenge is what about the individuals whose basic needs aren't fulfilled? That's where I would like to say, fulfill my wants, because until little Peggy Sue is going to bed with her tummy full, don't fulfill my wants, fill her needs first. And if divination can help fulfill other people's needs, because we have beyond the physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, depending on where individuals get caught up on, we have needs in those full facets of existence. We have a spiritual need for basic necessities. We have a mental need, physical and emotional need of fulfillment. And so if I'm able to help an entity fulfill those needs, by all means, reach out for me. The joke is $19.99 is all it would cost, but I only charge a giggle. I'll charge you a giggle for my tools of divination, but I don't know how many people can handle the blind truth.
I could give people my tools of divination, but I'll be perfectly honest, I'll be making it up as I go along. There you go. But I've found it, and I've just had it confirmed by old Pearly as well, but wow, I have got serious goosebumps even thinking about this. Now, Gypsy Rosa Lee, a very famous gypsy back in the day, but it was, from what I remember, and my mum says, my God, this is it. I found a picture of the caravan that I went and got my fortune told in, yes. A true-born Romany, a true gypsy, a palmist. Yes, I remember getting my palm read. The crystal balls there as well. But I swear, dude, it's like, man, it's a creepy feeling looking at this because it brings it all flooding back, if that makes sense. That woman, she was onto something. Even if I was the only person she got right that day, dang, she was onto something, dude. That's all I can say.
Well, I've dived down all of those realms of like looking into palmistry, looking into the tarot cards, runes, stuff.
And they say this looks so cheesy. This looks so cheesy that most people you wouldn't even go in there. That's why I was very skeptical of it. I must admit, there's big stars on it. There's a crystal ball. It's like everything you would think, like some kind of snake oil salesman's going to pull to get you in there. Like I say, it might have taken about 20 years for me to realise that, dang, she was absolutely, scarily accurate. Damn, dude, I've given myself the goosebumps. I need to take 2 minutes here. I need to drink my coffee. Over to you, Nacy.
Well, I mean, this is the whole thing where I make the joke about divination. I mean, we could speculate, but if we look at the full spectrum of it, at some percentage, we're going to be right. We're going to be spot on. And if somebody comes specifically with a question, through our experiences, we can come to a conclusion. I love bringing up the allegory of the circle and the dot in the center. And so if we think about that, if we image that dot in the center is the challenge, whatever it may be, the challenge or the focus of the observer. And so if you are on the perimeter of the circle and you're looking at the challenge from one perspective and you make a decision from just that one perspective, it's going to be what it is. However, if you go around the perimeter and look at that challenge from many different perspectives, then you're more than likely to make a more positive decision for overcoming the challenge. And then when you add another individual's perspective, then you get even more of that observation. Now, this in itself can be a challenge, because at what point or what moment do you get so caught up in trying to overcome that challenge that you don't make a decision? And this is a challenge to the challenge, cycles within cycles. Are you an individual that sits there and ponders over your decision until no decision is made, and then all of a sudden you're just like, forget it, Or are you that person that looks at it from the one perspective and impulsively makes the decision, without looking at it from many different perspectives, and this goes back to recognizing your cycles. When you are able to step back in your own existence and witness yourself as an observer, and then being critically honest with yourself about what am I doing in my decision making, where I'm utilizing critical thinking, collecting the data, and making a alignment, a course, plotting that bimad ziwe wiyan, as we say in Anishinaabe Mawota, that taking those precious moments to make a alignment, a course, plotting a course for the challenge to be overcame. Do it to it. Because if we're all miraculous perfection of unique individualisms, we have that ability to look within for the answers, hopefully within love, without fear, and have an incredible experience. Because all we have is precious moments, and every Friday, I get the unique experience of sharing the craziness that goes through my mind with everybody on Freaky Friday, and then to spend time with you, Captain Kev. It's a delight in my darkness.
Yes, indeed. I'm just listening to the wind picking up even more outside. It's crazy. Dude, I must apologise to the audience. Finding that actual palmist fortune teller, that's really kind of knocked my head in a bit of a tizzy, I must admit. It's brought
Is
it
she
off,
still
like,
in service?
I'm not sure. I'll have to go and check that one out. But that was...
Wouldn't that be interesting?
Oh, I'm trying to think. That had been 25 years ago, roughly. Roughly, yeah. 45 now. Yep. That's why at the time when she said I'd be speaking to hundreds or thousands of people, I literally burst out laughing. And I say, literally burst out laughing.
Right.
Yeah. There you go.
Well, if you're gonna go out there and take a leap of faith and check somebody out of such nature, I believe that you will know instinctively if this entity is going to do you well. And forewarning, going in with a overambitious I want to believe attitude, Barnum and Bailey, I think one of them said a sucker is born every minute. And we as silly humans, so we're labeled, we have this thirst for answers. And sometimes we're so caught up with our own answer to the question that we'll keep asking everybody the same question because we're wanting to hear our already preconditioned answer.
Yeah, good point, dude. Good point. Well, listen, we're almost on the last segment of the show. And so far, we haven't had any callers, so hopefully we'll change that after the break. All you got to do is dial 213-233-3998. That's 213-233-3998. And Jules of the Flame, she says, I'd go in. In my experience, the more gaudy on the outside, the more authentic the experience. Example are Mexican restaurants with tacky signs. They have the best food. Can't argue with that. And I've just found another photo of this caravan, and it's absolutely... Oh, it's like... I'm back there. I've been transported in time. It's mental time travel, Nacy. The best form of... Anyone can practice mental time travel, folks. It's totally free. You don't need a flux capacitor. And you don't need a physics equation to prove you can do it either. You just take yourself back.
Well, you know what? This is the quest I have for the audience.
Hold that
Call in
quest.
with a deck
Hold
of
that
cards.
quest. Hold your question. Yes, hold your quest, Nacy. We'll come back and get your quest on the other side, man. Oh no, I've hung up on Nacy. There we go, Nacy. I hung up on you and the host by mistake there. I'm back though, and we'll come back and we'll get your quest on the other side. Yes, final segment of today's Freaky Friday. Already the last Freaky Friday of November. Wow, this year has just flown by. Absolutely flown by. Today's show is flown by as well. And I want to hear from all of you, as does Nacy. So we've got the phone lines open for one more segment here before we hand on over to Brent Thomas and Don Longbeard, and they will take you through the paranormal portal right here on tfrlive.com. Truth Frequency Radio, where silence is consent, and where we give you protection not only from deception but from ooga boogas as well.
Ooga boogas.
My ooga booga button isn't working. Hang on.
Ooga booga.
There we go. I got it working again. I got it working. But yes, the number you need is 213-233-3998. That's 213-233-3998. Yes, and maybe you will call into the show, and me and Nacy will give you a memorable moment. Maybe when you call in, it might be a slow burner. It might be a couple of weeks down the line, but you'll think to yourself, wow, the guys were onto something there. Or at least, Nacy, that's what I'd like to think, right? We'll probably get it totally wrong.
Right. Well, that's what I said out there to the chat. Hello, everybody out there in YouTube land. Like, share, comment. Kev Baker's show, Monday through Thursday, Truth Frequency Network, tfrlive.com, and also on the YouTubes. Check him out. Share it. Get everybody there because Kevin cares. But, yeah, I put it out there that, throw it out there at us. Call in, have a deck of cards, pull a card. Let's see if me and Kev could pick the card or flip a quarter or a coin or write a number on a piece of paper or even pick a object up of color. Of course, we have to rely on the audience being truthful. But I speculate, Kev, you're more in tune than you like to let the audience in on.
No, I would love to sit here and say yep, but no. I've not got any powers of divination, dude. I've got an even...
Well, have you ever heard of reflexology?
I've heard of it. Do I know what it is? No. Educate me, man. Give me the reflex.
Okay, so I've done this. Now I'm crippled. I'm very weak, and I have done reflexology on men that are in very good physical condition, and I've been able to hold their hand down, and they can't raise it because of reflexology. So, and here's an example: the best thing to do. So your body knows what it needs. Your frequency will resonate higher when you put something in your body that will boost your frequency. So what I suggest is you take a organic apple or a organic banana and then a soda or cigarettes. And you have somebody there and you stand up straight, you put your arm straight out to the side. Your left or right arm, doesn't matter. So whatever arm that you have holding straight out to the side, you take your other arm and you hold the apple or the banana. And then you have somebody push your arm down to your side and you resist. And you will notice a difference that when you're holding the apple or banana, your strength of resisting is greater. But then when you change that banana or apple to a can of soda or cigarettes, you will notice that you cannot resist someone pushing your arm down. And it's the funniest thing to witness. And I've done it many times with people in the house. I've gotten to the point now where I can do it with a person's finger. I'll have them put their finger pointed at me and have it resting on one of my hands, and I'll take my finger and I'll make word suggestions. And I'll say a word and I can take minimal effort and push their finger down and they can't resist, especially when it's a negative. You know, and this is just the way it is. They talk about you know, hypnotism and stuff, that there are words are power, words are energy, and there is a word that each and every one of us knows that it triggers us. You know, we might not know why, but some experience will cause that trigger word. And when you hear that trigger word, or when you hear that word, you just feel the negativity that comes with that word. So there in itself is another, you know, example of how we're just fields, frequency. And that will, an example I'll tell people, once you start learning reflexology, you can go into the supermarket and you can, when you're critically honest with yourself, you can hold something, you're like, oh, I wonder if I should try this. And you can do reflexology on yourself. And if you are critically honest, you will not be able to resist, you know, the test. And it's just your body telling you exactly what you need. I swear by it. And I've example after example where I've had individuals, especially I like doing it with people that smoke. You know, that's my favorite joy to do it, because when you have them hold the banana or the apple and they see how strong they are, and then when they hold the cigarettes and they just can't resist it, they themselves, you can feel the reaction that they have on it. And it's just a good, you know, reminder. Cigarettes, tobacco isn't that bad for you. Cigarettes, yes.
And
Especially
smoking
the
bananas
commercial.
is never a good way forward. Smoking a banana, it doesn't look good. But we've got Jennifer.
Wasn't it
out
banana
there.
peels?
Yeah, I've been there when in my daft youth. Jennifer says reflexology, aka applied kinesiology, is freaking amazing. She swears
Yep.
by it. Worked for a naturopath in LA for 7 years and saw miracles using that technique. So there you go, backed up by Jennifer for sure.
Yeah, I mean, this in itself, I think would be considered divination. You know, I proclaim that when I catch somebody in a lie, I know when they lie to me again. Because, you know, whether it's just because my ears have become so finely attuned with the individual, especially if it's somebody I know, you know, over a long period of time, that there is, I don't know if it's like the feeling of their energy or the vibrato of their voice or the pitch, you know, but it's like a recognition of the pattern where it's like, oh, that's total BS coming out of their mouth. You know, but like I said, my accuracy depends on the individual. You know, I like to say at least I'm at a 67% to a 72% accuracy rate, and that's good enough for me. There's been times where I've done tarot cards or whatever, and I've nailed it. But there's been times where I've been nowhere near, not even in the ballpark. You know, so, you know, taking advice, you know, with a grain of salt. You'll know within your core if it resonates with you, you know, and I'd like to hope that if I share any kind of advice with anybody, it's totally for the positivity of universe.
I would like to think so. Yes, indeed, Nacy. I don't think there's a negative bone in your body, brother. I'm sure there is somewhere, but it certainly doesn't come through.
Well, I'm just trying to make up for the years of negativity that I may or may not have caused.
Well,
You know, there's nobody who's.
You've been talking about how Crowley keeps popping up in your quest for truth, your rabbit holes you go down. I would say probably avoid that, because that might start attracting some of that negativity to you. I've never read his stuff, so hey, each to their own. But he keeps popping up in the things you're looking at, right?
Well, so recently I've read a lot of H.P. Blavatsky, Genesis Revisited, or not Genesis Revisited, Isis Revisited, and the Secret Doctrine. And on Audible now, there's a book of hers, and then plus I have a couple other book reading programs that all of a sudden her books are being published on there, you know, along with Manly P. Hall. And allegedly Crowley was a fan of Blavatsky's. And reading over Blavatsky's things, I can see where the church is not happy with what she shares, you know, so I could see why they would definitely call her a heretic or yeah, just not a fan of the church, because she writes about many different religions or metaphysical things, paranormal things, you know, same with like Manly P. Hall, you know, and so Albert Pike, it makes me, sometimes I wonder if the powers that should not be will intentionally demonize somebody because they would rather us take it for face value that the person's a demon because there's something they don't want us to uncover. I've said it before, the expression, even a broken clock is right twice a day. You know, so you utilize your best discernment and critical thinking of what you're reading. You know, I humbly ask and suggest that you attempt to stay in positivity and you don't go down, you know, the, was it the left-hand path they used to call it? Or was it the right-hand path? Or, you know, simplification, positive, neutral, negative. Stay away from the negative stuff. The rituals of negativity, the rituals, ceremonies of negativity. Yeah, I just, you know, what's the expression? You know, you write a check to the devil, at some point, he's going to cash it. You know, so please don't make any deals with any negativity, and be really leery, because who's to know if some spirit that's, you know, talking really good smack to you is just that, just talking smack, just waiting for the opportunity to be like, you know, I'll get you, my pretty. Was it Faust? The Faustian bargain?
Faust, yep.
Yeah. Didn't seem like it ended up too good. So why would you yeah, I don't know. I've proclaimed many times that I don't want to be manipulated by any kind of spirit entity. You know, come to me with the full, you know, put all your cards on the deck.
We've got a caller on the line.
Yes.
Yes, we're going to go to area code 931. My good friend Ron, welcome to Freaky Friday, sir. What have you got for us today? And it's great to have you on, Ron.
How you doing?
I'm doing very well, sir. I'm doing very well. What bothers you this Freaky Friday, my friend?
Well, this is a moron from out in the middle of nowhere in Tennessee, and been listening to this thing tonight.
Just Ron. No moron. Just Ron.
Depends on the day. I got a story for each segment, but I don't know. Take a pick. You want a shaman story, a UFO story, a ghost story?
Naysay, take your pick, man. Naysay, go for it.
I like the shaman, the proclaims of shaman. I always get tickled pink about those. And you can never have enough more, Ron.
We have enough time. I might tell you how that came about. I was down in St. Croix. I went down there after Hurricane Hugo, and I was working, helping clean up that mess. And one day, as I was walking to the grocery store, a heavy weight started coming down on me. So I sat down on the wall that was alongside the walkway outside the grocery store. And as I'm sitting there, this weight's getting heavier and heavier. And before long, I'm laying on the wall, and it's pressing down. I'm starting to feel like I'm about to die because it's getting so heavy. And I ended up crying out, oh, God, if you're real, save me. And about that time, there was several people. I could hear them starting to walk around. And one of them walked up to me, and he leaned down and he whispered in my ear. And he said, if your spirit wasn't so big, you'd be dead. And that's how I met the local shaman in St. Croix in the Virgin Islands. And so that's my shaman story.
Wow.
But yeah, that weight thing can happen to you whether or not you're trying to go to sleep, awake, or whatever. I thought at first I was like starting to have a heart attack or something. That's the reason why I sat down. But it just kept getting heavier and heavier and heavier. And at one point I realized it had to be something spiritual, and that's when I called out. And that's when he just walked up out of the little crowd of people there, and he spoke into my ear. Later, I was invited to some of their island meetings and stuff and witnessed some of the local practices. But that's a story for another day.
Wow, dude. Wow. Give us one of your ghost stories or UFO stories before we have to wrap this up, Ron.
Okay. Well, actually, my best UFO story happened in about 2 weeks prior to the shaman story. We had just gotten to the Virgin Islands, and my buddy who was living there at the time was the manager of one of the local bars. And he took us all out to the end of this dock one night, and we were sitting there drinking. And this great big red light comes dropping out of the sky. And it's about maybe 1,500, 2,000 feet off from the end of the dock. And it stops about 100 feet above the water. And it starts shooting off these little blue globes, just one after another, like 100 of them or so. And each time one of them would hit the water, it would change from like blue to a green color, and it would shoot off in one direction or another. And we just watched them. It was like fireworks, and they just kept firing off through the water. And then when the last one went off, the thing shot straight back up in the air, and we all just looked at each other with our mouths wide open because we couldn't believe what we'd just seen. We had just gotten there, so we'd only had one drink in our hand, and that was it. And yeah, that's my best UFO one.
Yeah, you see things like that, and they say, I mean, I like to look at some of the UFO things, and I talk about secret projects, stuff like that. But then you get a story like that, where it's just so out of place that, I mean, how do you even begin to fathom what's going on there, Naysay, right?
Just makes you want to have more Ron.
It does, Ron. We've got time for another UFO encounter, brother. Give us another one before I let you go.
Well, there's one that happened about 2 years before that, and this one kind of can be discounted because there was about 16 of us tripping on LSD, and we were standing around a pond out in the middle of a farmer's field, and all of a sudden, out from behind the tree, this UFO comes up, and the light starts spinning around and around the clearing. And then we started seeing it, and it looked like horses racing. So we all started betting on the numbers of the horses. And then all of a sudden, all the trees formed into the Jolly Green Giant and stood up. And then it started walking, turned into the ball of light again, and took off. But like I said, even though so many people witnessed it, we were all slightly in a different state of mind.
Wow.
Nice.
Wow, dude.
Hey,
Ron,
Ron, do you have a coin on you?
Not right this minute.
Oh, dang it. I was going to have you flip a coin and see which Kev can guess it right.
oh, come on, dude. It's 50-50, right? Come on, man. Ron,
Well,
brother, we've got about 5 minutes left. Anything? What would you like to say to the audience before I let you go, dude? Any messages for everyone out there?
well, pretty much my one standard message is we all got to really pay attention to what we say and do in these times, because there's so much darkness trying to encroach on everybody's soul that there's got to be little sparks of light, or else the world's going to go dark. And we can only do that through our positive speech, through our blessing people, through our loving of others, through our actions. I stepped outside. It's really cold out here. Sorry.
Oh, trust me, dude. It's brass monkey weather here as well. But I think that there, Ron. I think what a brilliant way to kind of finish the show, for people to be that spark of light to extinguish the darkness. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. And I think some of the stuff that we're seeing right now, all these little lights that are dropping out of the sky, this, that, and another, are reminders that there's a battle going on out there, and these lights, they don't need to be extinguished. But as the evil increases...
Sorry, Ron, you said you're outside. Do you see the moon out at all?
No, it's a little overcast.
Okay. Sorry, I was going to get your perspective of the moon there in the middle of nowhere, because I bet you get some wonderful skies out there when it's clear.
Yeah, and actually, I was just discussing that earlier tonight. There is some times that it seems like the sun and the moon are hitting retrograde that they shouldn't be.
There you go, Naysay. There you go.
We noticed that from...
That's it. Ron's in your camp, Naysay.
We noticed from our tree line. So.
On you go, Ron.
Are you noticing a difference with the position of the sun and the moon and the tree lines over the course of the year?
Hold on one second. Yes, we've been seeing... I have a tree line that has got very distinctive trees, and there's like gaps between each one. And I can pretty much tell some of the seasons and stuff. And there'll be times I'll go out and I'll go, wait a minute. If I'm seeing right, that has gone 2 days down in the same exact spot, as opposed to moving or progressing along the set of gaps in the trees.
Ron, don't encourage him, man. Ron, don't encourage him.
I'm serious.
I know you are. I
have to encourage him, though, because it says that this earth is going to reel around like a drunken sailor, and we're starting to see that. I think as we see more and more of these great big earthquakes occur, we're going to see more and more of it, and it's going to become more and more distinct.
Yes, there'll be no grey area then. We'll be left in no uncertain terms that the changes are happening. Ron, I love you to bits, brother. You keep on being the full Ron, not more Ron. All Ron. Thank you for calling in, brother.
Try to be more Ron every day.
Ron, love you to bits, man. You stay safe. Stay safe out there.
Toodles.
Now, I had to have a little giggle there while we were on the phone with somebody on YouTube asking if I really have a Scottish accent. No, I've been bust, Nacy. I've been caught. Been faking being Scottish all this time, man. I know.
Does that mean I don't have to agree to the non-disclosure agreement about that specifically?
Yeah, we can you can drop your American sounding accent now as well. We can just we are actually from Gay Paris.
Well, I do not want to let the audience know that I may be French, but maybe I must be.
Yes, there you go. No, I am fully Scottish. Fully Scottish. The accent is absolutely genuine. It's the one, I wouldn't say I was born with it, thanks to where I grew up, I've definitely got it for life. So, yes, a true Scotsman. And that's right, I wear nothing under my kilt. When I wear a kilt, that is a very rare occasion. But Nathan,
Sacre bleu.
we are out of time, dude. We're out of time, man. Can you believe it?
No, we're never out of time because the illusion isn't real unless we solidify it.
But
But
trust me,
thank
it's
you
no
for
illusion.
another
It's
Freaky
no
Friday.
illusion that the paranormal portal will be coming on after the break. They will be taking you through the next 2 hours of woo right here on tfrlive.com. Want to thank everyone for tuning in today to make it the special Freaky Friday it was. Big shout out to Ron as well for calling in with his woo. We got shaman woo, we got that woo. We're out of here, folks.
Toodles.
Wow, that was loud. That was loud. So yes, YouTube people, we've still got a couple of people over there on Disco as well. We were flying high. We had way over 100 people, and then the power cut kicked in, and we were struggling to get it back after that. What can I say? But I want to thank everyone out there. Dem says, finally a real man in a kilt. 2 love hearts. Thank you for making my day. Yes, indeed. But no, I've had a blast today, and they say, but again, as much as me and you have an absolute chemistry, we miss Scotty Lopez. We do miss him. I still miss him, and I can't wait to get him back next week. What do you say?
He's probably just overindulging in that tryptophan from the turkey.
Probably. It's allowed. It's allowed, dude. But listen, on that note, I'm going to play some tunes. We're going to get out of here. All of you have a great weekend. Keep your eyes open for weekend streaming. We are on the weekend now. And don't forget, we've also got Our Alien Ancestry tomorrow. Go to ouralienancestry.net. And I'll also be on KBS Extra tomorrow as well. So with that said, let me love you and leave you. And we are out of here.
Freaky Friday with the Woe Crow.